Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast, a space for nurturing the ecosystem of business, body, and living. What would it be like if you gave your body a leadership role in your business and chose greater happiness every day? These are the conditions that create a healthy biome and a thriving business. I'm your host, Heather Nichols, and I'm so happy you're here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast, nurturing the ecosystem of business, body, and living. Today, we're going to talk about prioritizing your body. I talk to so many entrepreneurs who are, very successful, and they know how to create business, and they know how to work really hard, and they know how to create a profit in their business. And they've got those pieces dialed in, but they don't necessarily have the body piece dialed in. And that's a big part of why I'm doing this podcast, is because I just have a very different perspective and point of view about our bodies. And I see the value of including our bodies in everything that we do. It adds, our bodies can add such a richness to our business and our lives, our creative reality, even actually our money flows and our profitability. And but it's not a conversation that's being had really anywhere in the world, which is why I wanted to have it. And so, one of the things that people talk about a lot is people that are successful, they have a sense of, being able to get stuff done, knowing how to prioritize things, and, kind of knowing how to make things happen. But somehow the body kind of a lot of times goes to the bottom of the pile, and it becomes less of a priority. Or maybe even it's not a priority. It's just something that you kind of think you need to take care of, or you need to take care of, or you should take care of, but you don't really you've never really hit your kind of sweet spot with that. And that includes moving our bodies. It includes how we eat, how we feed our bodies, the care for our bodies that we give them, in terms of rest and relaxation, and maybe even body work and things like that. So how do we handle all of that? When you have a lot going on, you've got a lot in the hopper, you maybe have a family or relationships, and you've got your business, and there's a lot of different things happening in your life. Well, I would say, first of all, you need to prioritize your body as an area of your life, as an area of something that you would like to invest in, to make greater. The funny thing about priorities is that where we are right now in our lives is a reflection of what our priorities have been up until this point in time. And you might say, no, that's not true. My priorities have been this, this, and this. But the thing is that what you've actually created, where you actually are right now, shows what your priorities have been, even if you didn't think those things were your priorities. So if your body is not in great shape, or, your body really could use some love, it hasn't been a priority. And that's not wrong. It's not a reason to go judge yourself and go, bash yourself. But it's amazing when we're willing to get vulnerable with ourselves and really look and go, okay, all right, so my body hasn't been a priority. Or, maybe for you, it's your business hasn't been a priority, or the profitability of your business hasn't been a priority, or your family hasn't been a priority, all these things that are sort of like, oh gosh, that's so bad, but not really. Let's stay out of the bad and the good. Let's stay out of the judgment, because there's no reason for judgment. Judgment does nothing but just kill possibilities and kill creation. So instead of going to judgment, let's go to, okay, the pragmatics of this, and the vulnerability with yourself to say, wow, my body is a bit of a mess, or it's not where I would like it to be, or I've been neglecting it. okay, I'm going to get honest with myself. I'm going to tell myself the truth about this. My body hasn't been a priority. Okay. Now, once you acknowledge that, you can change it. You can choose something different. And you can begin to make it a priority. And, I don't remember who this quote is from, but in one of the many books that I've been listening to and reading lately, someone was sharing about, someone saying, if you have more than 3 priorities, you don't have priorities. Which I thought was really funny. And, I sort of take everything with a grain of salt. If it reads for me, if it creates a sense of lightness in my world, and it creates a sense of like, yeah, then I take it and I run with it in the way that I do. Now I wouldn't say you have no priorities, but priorities, like priority used to actually be a singular word. Like priorities as a plural thing is kind of a new construct. So the origins of the word priority are about singularity, of focus and intention, right? And so having multiple priorities is even kind of a different way to use that word than it was originally intended to be used. So having 25 priorities, how can you have, even 10 priorities, let's say? That's pretty tricky to have. And for me, I'm very ADHD. I love doing a lot of things. I love a lot of things. I'm good at a lot of things. That's true for a lot of entrepreneurs that have a lot of ADD, ADHD. They want to do a million things. I want to do a million things every day, Well, guess what? I'm not going to be able to do a million things every day. While I am not a huge believer in the construct of time, I do acknowledge that, well, for me, when I work with my schedule and I use my schedule, my planning and my calendaring and all of that to my advantage, it really creates a sense of relaxation for me in my world with what I'm creating. And because what used to happen for me is I would get to the end of the day and be like, where did that day go? What just happened? Like, because if you don't have the priorities in place and you don't put that into your schedule the way that you can, the world will sweep you up. The world will have its way with you, and we've all seen that, where we're like, okay, I'll do this. I can squeeze this in, and and then you get to the end of the day and you're like, I didn't spend any time with my family, or I didn't spend any time on my body, or I didn't, okay, tomorrow. How does that work? So getting vulnerable and honest with yourself. Okay, so I haven't been prioritizing my body or whatever it is, right? From there, you've got a different choice. You've got a different place to play. You've got a different playground, a different ball game. And, and if you are a rare person, I would say, in the world who really does prioritize your body, congratulations, that's phenomenal. You could apply this conversation to any other area of your life that you're not prioritizing that you would like to. So to go back to that piece of, like, speaking of ADD, ADHD, to go back to the piece of, how many priorities do you have? One of the things I started to do recently was look at, okay, there's a lot of things I'd love to do. Okay, so now I'm gonna give myself some space that I did actually carve into my calendar. I literally block off days. I block off entire days for myself. And then I block off, chunks of time every day as well. Because for me, being able to reflect and ask questions, play with my business, mull things around, look at things, a lot of times in my office, I've got big Post-it, big sheets of Post-it paper that I hang on the walls, and I get out my pens and I just, play in my office with ideas and things like that. Some people call it thinking. I'm not a huge fan of thinking. To me, when I'm using my mind, I'm contracting the possibilities. I like to ask questions and engage with the energy of my business and engage with the energy of my creations and function from awareness, the awareness of what's going to create a greater future. That's more valuable to me. So that's kind of my terminology that I would use. But playing, with the energies, asking questions, perceiving, kind of let my business and my creations kind of talk to me and see, so that's something that I carve into my schedule, is time for that. That's a priority for me. And so one of the things I've seen, because I do that, like, it's generating a lot for me. And I've mentioned on previous podcasts, this past summer, I was traveling a ton. I was home for 2 weeks this entire summer, and basically, and I got to the end of the summer and I was like, that was amazing. It was so much fun. It was so generative. I was like in so many cool places with cool people doing cool things, creating business, creating possibilities and magic, contributing to bodies, but I really felt this like deep sort of lack of time to play and ponder and engage and ask questions and see, like, just talk to my business and my life, and my body. And so I realized that was something I needed to really fiercely carve into my schedule, like put into my schedule on my calendar, actually on my calendar. And so as I started playing with that, I was like, okay, so I could, I have a lot of classes different types of classes that I do facilitate and can facilitate, some of which I don't facilitate because I just haven't, made the time for it. But a lot of different topics, being ADHD, ADD, OCD, autistic. I like to do a million things. And I went, okay, is doing a million things going to actually create the future that I desire? No, it's not. So in my, ponder time, my play with my business time, was like, okay, so I want to really get real with myself here. What are my priorities for my life? What are they? If I had to choose, and I gave myself 4 things, and it was like, okay, well, my business, and within that, there's, priorities as well. But it was like my business, my body, my relationships, and having space for relaxation, like having space to stare at the trees. I love staring at the trees or just being in the woods or whatever. I love just having that space to just be. And that can include like cooking and going to the farmer's market, but just time in my schedule to just do whatever I want to do. And so it was like, okay, cool. So how am I going to make sure, if these are the things that are part of the future that I'd like to create, and this, to kind of backtrack, and I'll go more into this on a future podcast. Perhaps I should have done it in a different order, but whatever. I can't be linear. But the starting point for this conversation for me was the future that I would like to create on the planet. And that includes me. And so looking at, okay, what's the future I'd like to create? Well, the future that I would like to create is about, I'm very clear on that. So if you're not clear on that, you may want to take some time getting clear on that. Story for another time, another podcast. So whenever I would ask that question, like, what's the future I'd like to create on the planet and for myself, it was like bodies and communion and earth and green and like being outdoors and bodies contributing to bodies and a lot of abundance and a lot of creativity and generativity and people engaging and creating greater futures and, all these beautiful energies that would pop for me. And so, okay, so if that's the future I'd like to have, and I'd like the world, whoever in the world would like to have it, to have, what can I prioritize that would get me closer to that? And every time I would ask that question, it was bodies, 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 bodies. So, okay, I've always played with bodies for a very, very long time. I've, been very dynamic with my own body since before I was born. So I like kind of acknowledging that was the priority, and then also like moving it to the docket, moving it to the top of the docket. Okay, well, this is a priority for me, and you may not have the same vision of the future. It may include your body more, it may not. And, this is what we got. Our bodies are the vehicle through which we get to enjoy living on planet Earth and creating and, having abundance and having all those things and the enjoyment of the physical reality and being alive. If we don't have our bodies, or if our bodies are compromised, or they don't feel good, or we're sick or whatever, depleted, it makes everything harder, which is also why I wanted to do this Entrepreneurial Biome podcast, because to me it's a very big missing piece in the conversation of business and creation in the world. At least in the way from the perspective of what I know about it and what I bring to the table with it. And so, and I must really give big kudos and gratitude and shout out to Access Consciousness, and a lot of the other things I did before Access that were all very much body centered as well. But Access Consciousness has been a huge part of my life for the past 13 years and continues to be, and beautiful body of work that really acknowledges that the body has a consciousness of its own, and our bodies have incredible capacities. Our bodies don't need to age, they don't need to degenerate, they don't need to even die. Our bodies have immense capacities for becoming greater every day, and that's what I'm interested in. And in tandem with that, if your body's becoming greater every day, so can your business, so can your whole life and living, because you get to enjoy the vibrancy and the aliveness of living in your body and having a body and being embodied, so how cool is that? So if that is of interest to you, if you're like, wow, okay, so I would like to include my body more in these things, how do you do that? Well, for one, acknowledge that your body is a priority, move it to the top of the list, and look at what your priorities are, and make sure you don't have too many of them, and if you do, it's not about shrinking, but it's about distilling towards something that's greater, right? Distilling towards something that is way greater. And the cool thing about this is, for me, because I would always be like, I love playing with business. I love coaching people, entrepreneurs, and playing on the creative edge of business creation and what's possible. I love playing with bodies, same thing, creative edge of what's possible with bodies. And I love playing with conversations on neurodiversity, and I have some really amazing skills and capacities, facilitating people having a different sexual reality, greater relationships, greater parenting. There's every, and people would ask me, what do you do? And I'd be like, blah, 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 I don't really know how to, it's like, how much time do you have? I do everything. But I found that it was really kind of like very scattered in terms of how I was putting myself out there in my business, and entered the entrepreneurial biome, where I went, what really is this? So I took all of those capacities and all those things, and I went, well, what if this was one offering, if this was one conversation that could go a lot of places, what would it be? And there was the entrepreneurial biome, this nurturing the ecosystem of business, body, and living. So the whole ecosystem of everything in your life. And that allowed me to really like distill and make greater what it is that I'm doing, and still be able to bring a lot of different conversations to people, but in a different way, in a more cohesive and organized way. So that's a little bit of a side note, not directly about the body, but it's like when I just wanted to speak to that, because when you're prioritizing, it's not about shrinking or eliminating things. It's about taking time and space to get a sense of the big picture and go, what am I really about? What do I really like when I die, if I die, let's say it like that. What would I actually like to, like, what's the world I would like to live in? What's really, just ask that, like, what's the world I would like to live in? Now it's up to you to create that, because you are the only one who knows that. You are the only one who is aware of that as a possibility. So bodies. So if you would like to prioritize your body more, move it into that, very elite, zone of these few things where you're like, these are the things that I'm focusing my attention on. And so one of the things that I've done is acknowledge, and my body has actually always been a priority. I take really good care of my body, like impeccable care of my body, to a degree where most people think I'm a complete freak, which is fine. I don't care. I know what I'm doing and what I'm creating, and I get greater. My body gets greater every day. I feel like I get younger every day. So it's fine. Not everybody wants to do that. I don't participate in aging. That's not my thing. I like to do it in reverse. So, well, you can't do that if your body is not a priority. That's a huge ask, because the world will create your body as well if you don't create your body. Your body is something that needs to be actively created every day. The world will create it if you don't. All the junk food and the overeating and all the things that just, and the chemicals that go into food that's not organic, and the encouraging you to sit on the couch and be on your phone and be on your computer and disconnect and not be outside, and all this isolation and social distancing and all this stuff is all it all leads to a degradation of the body and the potential and the possibilities that our bodies have. So if you would like to have a really great body, a body that gets greater every day, you have to prioritize it, because otherwise the world will sweep you up and take you down. So you have to prioritize it, and you have to be willing to be different. So one of the things that I do is I block out time in my calendar, and I block out 2.5 hours every day for my body. Now, what does that mean? And I'm not telling you to do that. Like, this is just what I do. I share that as a spark, because it's way more important for you to do what's going to work for you, and try it, play with it, see what happens, But what I've done is I've put, because for me, I'm like, there's so much more that I'd like to create with my body. And I love being an athlete, and I love pushing myself as an athlete on the creative edge of what's possible for my body. I took up figure skating at age 49 for the first time in my life. And really was like, I'm going to get really, really, really good at this. And along the way, I've had a lot of coaching and a lot of practice, and my body started to, like, there was some pain going on, and I had to actually take a break from skating, which I'm in the middle of right now. But what I'm doing is I'm regenerating, I'm handling some things in my body, and I'm reorganizing, restructuring, recreating my body, or not even recreating, but like creating it in a new way with even greater structural integrity and cohesion. And my movement is changing, and the structure of my body is changing, the molecular structure, the physical structure, it's all changing. I'm changing it very actively and diligently, and as a priority, so that I can get back on the ice and really continue to play. That's one of the things that I absolutely, absolutely love, is ice skating. When I'm able to get back on the ice, I'm going to need to put even more time in my calendar for my body, because skating is a 2-hour endeavor. Drive to the rink, get the skates on, skate for an hour, take the skates off, drive home. I don't happen to have a rink next door. So I got to drive a little bit to get to the rink. So, then I'm going to need to add more time. But if that's a priority, that's what I'm going to do. And I don't have the point of view that I need to work an 8-hour day. In fact, to me, if like a 4 to 6 hour chunk of really focused work is plenty. I mean, 4 hours of facilitating, being on Zoom, talking to people, I'm done. That's plenty for the day. And maybe I do a little bit of computer work later on. But so I also don't have the point of view that I'm impoverished with my time. To me, time is abundant, and I get to choose what I want to do with it and how I would like to use it. And I don't, nothing is like, I really like to choose my time, what I do with my time, how I organize it, and how I use it very diligently. And that's becoming more and more of a thing as I play with these things more and more. So I have chunks of time in my schedule for body care. That can include moving my body. That can include body work, energy work. I do a lot of energy work. I love energy work. I do it on, other bodies, and I love to receive it as well. I love body work. I get lots of different types of body work. I do a lot of body work on myself, which has been really amazing. And different types of movement. And even within that, I started to go, there's a lot of things I love to do movement wise. What's going to create the body and the reality that I'm asking for? And then I'm like honed in on a few things. So, let go of some kind of peripheral things I was doing movement wise that were actually kind of a bit of a distraction. And okay, cool. So this is going to create more of what I'm asking for with my body. I'm going to prioritize this within that time, and then even things like, like just showering and, drying my hair, that thing. I can't go out. I have to wash my hair. Well, for people with long hair, that's actually a deal. Like it takes time to get this whole thing happening. So, anybody with long hair is probably laughing because it's true. And so, so that's something that, I'm like, okay, that needs to be, there needs to be time carved out for that too. Feeding myself, cooking for myself, things like that. So chunking out times in my calendar and getting really clear. Okay, these are the things that I do for my body. This is why I do these things for my body. This is the future that I'm asking for with this. And it's not about being rigid, but it is about being very clear and very intentional and going, this is what I'm creating and this is what I'm choosing. And at the end of the, usually I have my body time in the morning, but the cool thing is it's in my calendar. And if I really need to put a meeting in the morning, I move the body time, and I have it as a daily thing, recurring end date, never, right? And so it's in there before anything else. And if I need to schedule something on top of those hours, I move it to another part of my day. And then, toward the end of the day, it's like, have time to prepare food and, have time to go to the farmer's market, put that in my calendar, all those things. Because if you don't, you won't, it's plain, like if you don't have priorities for you, the world will. Something just happened. I am back. We found out after the fact that when I recorded that podcast episode that my microphone went mute at the end there. So I'm recording the end of the episode now. And boy, did I look pale in that thing. So if anybody has any good ideas for podcast lighting, pass them my way, because I need some lighting inspiration. But so where were we? We were talking about if you don't have priorities for you, the world will, and for your body. And I think the part that I was actually, pretty excited about, I mean, I'm excited about everything that I'm putting out, but one of the things that I talked about that didn't make it onto the original recording that I'm going to talk about now is that we all have people in our lives that really want us to stay the same. And this is true for our bodies, this is true for creation, it's true for our businesses, it's true for our money flows. Like, we literally surround ourselves with people that we're very similar to in a lot of ways. We have a similar kind of like stratification of, what we're willing to be, do, have, create, generate, what we're not willing to be, do, have, create, generate, that kind of a thing. So we surround ourselves with people that are similar to us in a lot of ways. And a lot of times, unless you're smart and lucky, and even if you are smart and lucky, hey, I'm calling all of you smart and lucky, okay? But if you're, I guess my point is, it's something that you have to really need to be aware of, is that we do tend to have people in our lives, all of us, that want us to stay small. They might be close in, they might be not as close in, it depends on the situation. But when you start shifting your priorities around and you start prioritizing your body, I mean, even, look at how I was talking about prioritizing, like having a sense of reverse aging, you have to be willing to be really different to have success with your body, a level of success that most other people don't have and won't have with their bodies, to have a sense of like being able to create, let's say, reverse aging, or even just really vibrant health, and aliveness, and enjoying your body. I mean, enjoying your body is like, practically illegal in these parts. Like, it's not something that people do. It's not something that people know they can do. It's not something that people prioritize. So if you would like to have those types of things with your body, which I would call really like success with your body, you're going to need to be willing to be very different. And the people in your life, and especially if you've been a certain way, like anytime we are a certain way and then we make a big change, it actually, it will create a lot of ripples in the world and in our relationships. Relationships in this world are largely about kind of like, nobody moves, nobody gets hurt. You stay the same, I'll stay the same. We'll kind of like plunge into mediocrity together, which I'm not very interested in that. And that's one of the reasons why I don't have a lot. Well, I do actually have a lot of close relationships, but they're very different in terms of how they function, with people that are out, like, where it's based on expansiveness and growth and evolution. So that's part of my ecosystem. But I'm not interested in relationships by obligation, for whatever reason, whether that's, family or friendships, or you've been friends for so long, you just have to keep being friends or whatever. I consciously choose the people that are in my life, because I desire for them to be in my life. And they also desire for me to be greater, and they support that. And I highly recommend surrounding yourself with those types of people. It will enhance your entrepreneurial biome dynamically, and it will also enhance what you can create with your body. And that said, like, you've got to be willing to do that no matter what, no matter who's in your life. Because if you all of a sudden, people a lot of times kind of connect around their, they commiserate. So they share in the misery, they're sharing their miseries with each other, with body stuff. Or they're like, these pain points can be sort of these connection points. And people do that with bodies. Oh yeah, losing weight, being fat, menopause, ill health, those types of things. They're all these weird sort of connection points that people have with each other. And when you're like, my body's fantastic, I love it, I enjoy it, I have so much fun, I'm not aging, I'm reverse aging, and I'm exploring more and more all the time, people are like, I don't know what to do with you. So in a way, you have to be kind of willing to like go out on your own in a sense. When you start to explore a very different space of prioritizing your body, because it's not a popular thing, it's not something we're taught to do. It's something that like I said, if you don't prioritize, the world will. Or if you don't create your body every day, the world will. If you don't prioritize your body, the world will deliver you your priorities, and you may not really like them so much. And so you got to be aware of that. And when you start choosing a different reality with your body, start to notice, how that shows up, and what what things do you need to let go of? Maybe there's people you need to let go of. If you hang around people that love to get unconscious and overeat together, and you're actually like, I don't really want to do that anymore, you're probably going to need to find some new friends, or be willing to just have your own reality with that doesn't need people, but also can include people, but you don't need people. Food in and of itself is a huge social thing. And I that's a story for another time, but it is one of those places where we connect. I mean, think about a Thanksgiving dinner or a holiday dinner, if you're in other parts of the world where, everybody gets together and you eat and eat and eat into oblivion, and everybody's stuffed and everybody's uncomfortable. And, it's like, there's nothing about that that's honoring of bodies. And so if you are prioritizing the honoring of your body above those types of experiences, then you may find that you are going to be kind of more of a lone wolf, for a while at least, or maybe always. But I would say for me, like the value of like what I get to live, what I get to have with my body, and this really applies to every area of my life, is just, it's so great. It's so much greater than that, that it's been easy for me to, relatively easy for me to let go of a lot of those things, because I'm like, that doesn't create the future that I desire. The future that I desire involves a very, very vibrant body and vibrant living. And I love to surround myself with people that are interested in that. And I don't need to surround myself with anybody. So I don't surround myself with people that don't contribute to that, because it's not very fun for me. So I think that was the last piece. I don't even remember what I said that got lost in the shuffle, but I think you get the point. So thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Entrepreneurial Biome, and have way more fun with your body than you're supposed to. And I wonder what that would be for you. What does your body desire? What does your body enjoy? And what can you enjoy with your body that you've never considered? Thanks so much, everybody, and bye for now. Thank you for joining me for the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. For more resources, check out my website at heathernichols.com and my social media channels as well. Have a beautiful day, and remember that your business thrives when you do.